Welcome to Raising the Bar podcast,
sponsored by the Ashmore Law Firm.
We're your hosts and siblings,
Gary Ashmore
and Lori Ashmore Peters.
Subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Okay, so we'd like to welcome everybody to this week's episode of Raising the Bar podcast, sponsored by the Ashmore Law Firm. I'm one of your co-hosts, Gary Ashmore, and
Lori Ashmore Peters.
Siblings,
Yes.
brother, sister.
Yes.
So we've got an amazing guest with us today, Amy Tyson. And Amy, I'll let you tell us kind of who you are and what you do.
Well, hold on though.
Okay, stop me.
Amy Tyson, you're a co-parenting counselor or coach, divorce coach.
Yes.
And these two incredible books
Right.
that you have written, that you have authored, I guess, and what your passion is behind these kinds of books that I get, they're for kiddos. Mm-hmm. So that, I guess no matter how young or old, these are great to help them understand the process for something that is very heavy with parents getting divorced.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad you kind of brought all of that together. So when I meet with family law firms or even with therapists, I always like to give individuals a glimpse at who I am as to why I have such a passion and a purpose.
Okay.
So I am one of those individuals. I've been divorced twice and I have 3 daughters. I'm also a former educator, so I saw what my students and their parents went through, and I have chosen to take what I've been through, my daughters have been through, and what I saw so many students and parents and now kids at camps that I volunteer at go through, and used it to develop things that will help them through the journey of divorce or the splitting of their family for those that weren't married, and the years that follow to do it in a different way.
Right.
So years and years ago, I was going through my first divorce. And I had 2 young daughters at the time. One was 4.5, one was 7.5.
Okay.
I had been a teacher, but at this point was a stay-at-home mom. And my girls were my world. I'll be really honest. And not that everybody's children aren't their world, right? But when you're not in a healthy marriage, a lot of the times your children become your world even more so. And that's just a lot of the facts for a lot of people.
Right.
And so my main concern was, how on earth do I tell my little girls? And here I was, early approaching mid-30s. I didn't have a lot of friends that had walked this journey. And the reality is, even if you do have a lot of friends that have walked that journey, your journey may be different, or you may not want to walk the same journey that they did. And that includes communication. And so at the time, I was really active in a church out in Tarrant County in Arlington. And I reached out to one of the pastors there, and I said, I don't even know how to have this conversation. I'm used to reading to my girls. I'm used to teaching through books. And she actually loaned me a book and said, listen, you're going to go to a place you've never been to because they'll never forget this day. You don't want to associate it with your living room couch because then they're always going to remember that conversation, right? And so I remember I had their dad meet us at this park in this treat area away from everybody else. We'd never been to this park. And among all things, I sprout out a princess blanket, which obviously now it has come full circle. But I didn't know that so many years ago. We sit on this blanket. I read this book. It was horrible. And here's the thing. I knew it wasn't going to be a pleasant day, right? Because no parent, no child is going to embrace that day with joy. There's a lot of unknowns. Children have a lot of questions. And a lot of times they feel like their world is falling apart. But here was the problem. The problem was I wasn't able to soften the blow at all, even though I had used the book I was told to use in the way I was told to use it. And I just remember feeling devastated as a mom. All right, so I just want you to remember my 2 daughters at the time were 4.5 and 7.5, okay? Years later, I'm now living in Frisco. I now have a 3rd little girl that's 5, and I've left another marriage, okay? Here I am, and I am feeling like double the failure. I mean, I'll be really honest. At that point, I thought, who goes through 2 divorces? And it's very common, but I felt like double the failure with that, coupled with the fact that my 2 daughters that had been 4.5 and 7.5, now one of them was about to enter high school. The other one was about to exit high school. Still very much remembered the day I told them about their dad and I getting a divorce. But here's the other part. Still very much remembered the book. All with negative emotions. And I just remembered saying to myself, oh my goodness, if a day in a book had this much power over the child, I've got to get it right this time. And I just wasn't in the mindset to do it. And so the two oldest ones knew I was getting another divorce because we had moved out. My 5-year-old, I was able to kind of dance around it, right? Months go by. I still have not had that conversation. I remember being in my room folding laundry, and all of a sudden, out of the middle of nowhere, and I know to a lot of people, you're going to think, this just sounds really crazy, Amy, but this is the honest truth. I'm folding laundry, and out of the middle of nowhere comes this phrase in my head, one princess, two castles. And I just remember at the time thinking, this is really, really weird. And I just remember stopping in my tracks, and I grabbed a little scrap of paper, wrote the simple phrase, one princess, two castles on it, because I didn't know why that phrase had come in my head, right? And I put it in this little silver box in my room, and I just went about life the next while and didn't think anything else about that phrase until one day it was time I could not put off telling my 5-year-old anymore, and she was in kindergarten. So what do? I want a book because I'm a book woman and I'm used to teaching that way, and my girls love books. So at this point, I reached out to her school counselor. And I said, do you have a book? She did not. But she did recommend one, so I'll give kudos to her on that. I'm on Amazon. So what are you going to do? Well, I ordered the book. All the girls are at school. I remember sitting home alone in my apartment. And even though nobody was there, there was just this pressure, this sense of, Amy, you've got to hone in and focus on this book. So I remember shutting my bedroom door, sitting on my floor across from my nightstand, crisscross applesauce, as teachers or our former teachers say.
Right.
And I am just staring at the cover of this book. And I was just really put off as the only way I know how to explain it. And I remembered saying to myself, Amy, you have got to read this book. You've got to get it right this time. And when you're talking about your child, there's a lot at stake. And this is something to be taken very seriously. And I start to read through the book, and I didn't even make it to the end. I just shut it because I knew this was not the way to go about it, or at least not the way I wanted to tell my 5-year-old. And at this point, I'm not thinking about the potential of millions of other children and parents. I'm just thinking of my own.
Your own, right.
I went and threw it away, and I sat down at my desk and wrote what I titled One Princess, Two Castles, which is the book that so many family law firms carry today for their clients. And then it's gone from there, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But that just gives you a glimpse at where this has all started.
Wow. Okay. Extremely inspirational. Holy moly.
It is. It truly, truly is.
And a perspective that I mean, we see this every day, but it's a perspective that people they have no idea. And and I oftentimes hear the phrases from counselors and therapists, oh, kids are resilient, they'll get over it. Kids are resilient, no, they'll figure it out. Well, no, give them some tools.
Absolutely, yes.
So this book, I'm sure, is an amazing tool.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel that it is.
Of
And
course.
really, when I wrote it for my own little girl, again, I wasn't thinking about any other children having their hands on this.
Right.
But there was this, okay, Amy, who are you to write a book, right? And even though it was just for my little girl, I thought, I need other people to read this to see what they think.
Right.
And so at the beginning, when people started to say, Amy, this is really good, you should publish this, I thought, oh, they're just trying to make me feel good. I mean, we all have friends like that, right?
Of course.
But the more that I started to hear it, I started to think, okay, wait a minute. What if I'm onto something that can truly make a difference for parents and their children that my older daughters and I didn't have so many years ago? And so that's when I really saved and really pushed forward with publishing and printing the book. And I'll be real honest, when I first published it, I thought, no, I'll just, sell to individuals. I'm going to be in Barnes & Nobles, all the things. And that's when it hit me. Who's on the front lines?
Yeah.
You guys.
Right. That's right.
And so when I meet with family law firms, and even with therapists as well, but when I meet with family law firms, what I say to everybody is, listen, the minute a client retains you for a SAPSR, which is when the parents weren't married, a divorce, or a modification, because we know even with a modification, something is changing,
Right.
that it's an automatic trigger that you hand them over a copy of One Princess, Two Castles, and or One Camper, Two Cabins, which is my newest, and then the journal, which we'll talk about later, Little Hearts, Big Feelings.
Okay.
And what you say to them is that, listen, I want to provide you with a resource to help facilitate what can be a very, very difficult discussion for even the most seasoned communicator, because you're dealing with a conversation, that deals with your heart, and you're dealing with your child. Right. And I want to hand this over to you. And what I have found and the feedback I've gotten is that these kids are going back to this book over and over again. And I want you to think about this. Do you guys have kids? Yes? Okay.
Yes, yep.
So, or, friends with kids, whatever. Oftentimes when a child finds a book that speaks to their heart, whether it's like Brown Bear, whatever, they are bringing that book to their parents day after day until you're like, I don't even need to read the words. I know them, and I'm really tired of hearing them.
Right.
But it's like it's sunk
right.
into your head, right? And so my hope is that even for these parents that they are so caught up in all the emotions, right, is that it hits them, okay, I may not like the other parent, but I love my child.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm going to help facilitate healing, okay? And I'm going to help facilitate healthy co-parenting. And my book, number one, it doesn't mention the word divorce, which I think is so important for everybody to know. When I wrote the book for my own daughter, she was 5, okay? And I really felt like divorce was much too strong of a word, and I still feel that way. But when I went to publish it, I thought, all right, Amy, if you're on a mission to help as many families as possible, you still can't use the word divorce, because we know there's a lot of families who were never married, but they have a child.
Right.
And although I didn't walk that journey, I do not doubt that pain affects those parents and those children any differently than it does with somebody with a ring on their finger. Okay?
Right.
So number one, my books, my journals do not use the word divorce. Okay? Number two, my books, my journals, they give children, and then the journal, also teenagers, they give their hearts permission to hurt, which is really important, okay? Because no matter how you paint this picture, no matter what you do, their hearts are going to hurt. But here is the game changer with this, is that it also gives these children and the journal, the teenagers as well, their hearts an unapologetic permission to feel really excited about spending time with both parents, period.
Right.
And that is so important, because a lot of these parents, now I understand sometimes there are safety concerns, and so this is not what I'm talking about, okay?
Right.
So barring safety concerns, here's the deal. And this isn't real pleasant for some people to hear. You figured out how to have a child with this person, you better figure out how to co-parent. And I'm going to help you with that.
Right.
And it's not going to be all sunshine and lollipops. I'm going to help to make it positive, but you're going to have to get through some hard points, right? But in the meantime, you're going to have to fake it till you make it, and you encourage that child even when you don't want to be excited about spending time with their parents so that they can fully engage when they're there and not feel this guilt.
Yeah.
And the other thing that my books and my journals equip parents and children with is a phrase that's repeated throughout the whole thing. And it's, things will be different, but things will be good. People have got to understand, whether it's your time with your child that's changing, where you live is changing, where they go to school may be changing, your finances, whatever it may be, different doesn't have to mean bad. You can go from the huge home into something much smaller. Maybe you're getting to stay there, but you don't see your child as often. Whatever it is, I'm here to help equip these parents and children to look for the good that can even come out of a really dark situation.
Right.
That is absolutely amazing. And so with your girls having just, I guess, the negative memory of the day, the blanket, the tree, the book, did they read this before you published it or after?
Before. They read it before. And so when I read One Princess, Two Castles, of course, my older girls, heard it in advance. But the day that I read it to my youngest, it was only on printer paper. I mean, there were no pictures, because I can write all day long, but I can't draw to save my life. And to see the way she embraced that story, and at the end of it, so the main character is Princess T, after my youngest daughter, Tegan.
Okay.
And so at the end of me reading this story to my youngest, she said, "Mommy, I'm Princess T, aren't I?" And she had such a good reaction to it, and it was so different than those many years ago.
Right.
And now when I get attorneys telling me, okay, I have clients sending me pictures of their children dressed up as Princess T, or I have parents sending me pictures of their child, which I can't share, right? but sending me pictures of their child dressed up for Halloween or book character day at school. It's like, it's the impact I'm after making, right?
Right,
It's,
of course.
it's not that I'm anybody that's like super important. I'm just out here to make a difference.
Oh my God.
So.
Okay, that gives me chills. That gives me chills because it truly, truly is what's best for those kids. And you're right. I mean, as parents, you get caught up in your anger, your animosity towards each other.
Yeah.
But it truly is putting the kids first.
Right. And when these clients come to you all and they're sitting in that conference room, right, especially when they're first retaining you, or even when they're getting ready to go to court and they are fired up, it's not that they don't love their child, right? And it's not necessarily that they don't want to put their child first, but they are so caught up oftentimes in the betrayal, the anger, the that this isn't fair, I shouldn't have to do this, all the things that they put that focus on those feelings instead of their child where it should be. And we have a world today, I firmly believe it's become monkey see, monkey do. This is how mom and dad handled their divorce or their breakup. This is how they do it on TV. This is how grandma did it. And we've got a cycle. And we're not stopping divorce, right? We're not. And I'm not here saying that we should.
Right.
And it's not so much I'm a proponent of divorce. I'm a proponent of a healthy marriage. And
That's
if
right.
it can't be healthy, then you've got decisions to make. So
right.
knowing that divorce isn't going anywhere, I'm here to change that message and to help these men, to help these women, to help these children and teenagers move on in a better way.
Right.
What made you write the second book? You said that's a recent book.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
so after One Princess, Two Castles came the journal, actually.
Okay.
So this is the most recent one. But the journal came from my experience as not just being a mom, but being an educator. So the journal is called Little Hearts, Big Feelings. So whereas the books are tailored more for 4 to age 12,
Okay.
the journal is 4 to all the way to 18.
Okay.
Now, I want you to think about how hard it is for parents, for adults, even without children, to talk about their emotions, right? That's not an easy thing to do a lot of times.
Right.
Now you take a child or a teenager, number one, they're not fully developed.
Yep.
So a lot of the time, they can't even communicate how they're feeling. The other side to that is, on the occasions when they can, a lot of times they won't because they're bearing the burden of their parents' pain that they were never meant to carry, whether it's from seeing their facial expressions, hearing conversations, seeing text messages on a phone. They now don't feel like they can come and express how they're feeling. And so you've got parents that they're in the middle of litigation or they're getting ready to file or it's the years that follow. And they've got a child that is experiencing a lot of things. And maybe it's extreme behaviors. Maybe it's a drop in grades. Maybe they're not seeing it, but there's all kinds of things going on the inside. And so this is where it's so helpful for you all. A lot of family law firms carry Little Hearts, Big Feelings, the journal too. And so they hand the journal over to their clients. They have that conversation talking about how hard it is for adults to explain feelings. And what they say to them is, listen, your child or your teenager, you're going to send them to bed 15 to 20 minutes earlier than normal at night. You're going to have this container of very special art supplies that they don't normally have access to. And so I give firms a document with links to these supplies to make it engaging, okay?
Right.
And if it's a child of not reading age, they read the prompt. And then if they're reading age, they tell the child, these are the pages I want you to work on. Parent then says, I'm going to go do the dishes, work out, whatever. Parent's not staying in that room,
Right.
okay? At the end of that 20 minutes, parent goes into the room, and this is really important. The parent says to the child or teenager, okay, it's time to put the journal away, and parent doesn't touch it. The child or the teenager puts it in their nightstand drawer, on their bookshelf, wherever. Parent takes the art supplies, they go on with their nightly routine. But you, as the family law attorney, will tell them, occasionally when you come in for meetings, you're going to bring this journal, and we're going to look at it. Now, and here's why. And here is why this is so important, is that not only does this help a child to express their feelings, it also helps the parents to get to know them. When they first look at the journal, somebody who really isn't educated on children and how they operate or even family law won't think the way that I and maybe you all will think after I'm talking to you about it. The journal starts out with, draw a picture of yourself. Draw a picture of your favorite book. Draw a picture of your best friend. Okay, so it goes through like your favorite thing to eat for breakfast. Right. Why? Why would I do that? There's 2 reasons. Number one, if you immediately get into feelings, that child's wall is going to be up. You're going to get nothing. Number two, oftentimes you're going to have a client. Either A, they were not as plugged in as they needed to be because maybe they were so career driven and they were at a point the other parent was more in charge of that and they were out doing their career or going to school, or maybe emotionally they just weren't able to be as checked in as they needed to be. And now guess what? They want to start having their child some of the time by themselves, so they better know their child and their interest, okay?
Right.
So this helps to take down those walls and helps parents to get to know their child, okay? That will help you guys as you're questioning your clients sometimes. Now, as you get into it, it'll say, draw a picture of your family. Well, you might be thinking, okay, and no, what does that picture look like? Are both parents in the picture?
Right.
Is the child holding both hands? What do those facial expressions look like? Is somebody else drawn into that picture nobody knew nothing about?
Yeah.
It moves into other things like draw 4 pictures of your favorite things to do with your mom. Draw 4 things you wish you could do with your mom. Okay? Everywhere it talks about mom, guess what? It's going to talk about dad because he's every bit as important. And I won't walk you through the whole thing, but some also really important things are that it'll say, draw a picture of what you think about when you go to bed at night. Draw a picture of what could help your night go better. Draw 4 things that make you feel afraid. Now, a child that's in a healthy home, that's intact, what they think about when they go to bed at night, their fears, their concerns, that's going to look really different than a child that's in the midst of an unhealthy divorce. And what do those pictures look like? Are they afraid of going to mom's because she's partaking in something real unhealthy and you guys need to see proof of that? Or it's going to bring up things that you guys didn't know? And then it also helps to facilitate healthy co-parenting, right? Because I do recommend both parents have this, right? But it depends on if both firms give it to their clients.
Right.
Okay, so you guys could be the ones that do and the other one doesn't, right? But so let's just say mom has the journal and she is really upset with the dad and she's having trouble moving past. Well, when she is seeing constant things of, this is what my child likes to do with their dad. These are things my child loves about their dad. These are things she wishes or he wishes they could do with their dad or even with me. It's not just going to help validate that parent, but it's going to help give them insight to, you know what? My child loves their other parent. I may hate them.
Right. That's right.
But my child loves them. I've got to figure this out. So that's just, it's tons and tons
That's
of
amazing.
pages, but it
That's
just
really
gives you
great.
guys insight because there's a lot of power in drawings. But then this past year, I published my newest book, One Camper, Two Cabins. And it is, I say the boy version. It really applies to boys and girls. 2 out of my 3 girls love camping and being outside, all the things. But immediately when I wrote One Princess, Two Castles, immediately attorneys were like, okay, when are you going to do the boy version?
Right.
And I knew it would happen, but it's very expensive to get it illustrated and printed with, high quality, professionals. And so here it is. So
Congratulations.
Fantastic. Yeah, congratulations is right.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you. Oh, I'm passionate.
What an incredible, it is. We can definitely tell you're passionate about it because you've lived through it. You've lived through the raw emotions. You're not afraid of your own vulnerability and using that to help others. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
That's
I have
great.
chills.
I know. So, okay, so tell us, how do people find you if they want to know more about first Amy Tyson?
Yes. Okay. So you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook under the Texas Divorce Coach because I do divorce coaching and co-parenting coaching as well. And then on LinkedIn, I'm under Amy Tyson. And my website is happinessintheheartache.com because you can find happiness in that heartache. You just have to try.
Yes.
Okay, so happinessintheheartache.com. When they go to that website, is that where they'll find these materials if they want to
Absolutely.
purchase the books or any of those kinds of things? Okay. All right. Do you give bulk discounts for people that buy more than one?
I don't actually, but I will say.
Okay, let me help you with that.
If it was a huge bulk order, then we'll talk. But typically,
Okay.
family law firms will buy them in bundles of 10.
Right, of course.
And they can, if it's a firm, they can mix it up and get some of each one. But typically, they'll just get, 10 One Princess, Two Castles, 10 One Camper, Two Cabins, things like that.
And what do you charge for each of them?
So a bundle of 10 is $199.90 plus tax. And then if they're not in person, then there's shipping. And I send priority mail, so it gets there really quickly. So if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it's always better to meet up with me in person. Then you don't have to pay the priority shipping cost. Yes.
Okay, so that's $19 each.
Yep, $19.99. Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
my math. I mathed. Well,
I mean, I'm impressed.
well, I had to think about it.
you
but
did.
Yes,
You
I got it.
did.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Can't do the tax part, but okay. All right. So what else would you like to share with us as it relates to kind of your coaching and your co-parenting?
But how long have you been a certified divorce coach and a co-parenting coach?
Sure, and I'm so glad you asked that. So, number one, I actually took classes to become a certified divorce coach. For a
Okay.
long time, I had people saying, Amy, you should coach, just because of what I'd been through, right? And I'm a believer that you can use what you've been through to help other people, but I didn't want just the heart knowledge of what I went through, my girls and my students and their parents. I really wanted to be certified. And so I took classes and I completed those classes, excuse me, in December of 23.
Okay.
And so I have to take updated, classes and things, throughout the years and get recertified every year. So I'm a certified divorce coach and co-parenting coach. And number one, I don't give legal advice.
Okay.
And so that's so important to know. And I also don't diagnose like a therapist.
Right.
So I refer out to family law firms. There are some firms that refer over to me. I refer out to therapists. There are some therapists that refer out to me.
Right.
And so think about this. If you were going into the Super Bowl, right? Because I'm just saying like that's a big competition. Everybody knows what that is, right? You would go in with a team. You're not going to just go in with
That's right.
one professional. And everybody has their lane. But again, I want to preface, I do not give legal advice. Sometimes I see, and I'll never name drop, but sometimes I see coaches on social media and I'm just like, oh my gosh, no. And the other thing is, I am not going to coach you to hate. I'm going to coach you to heal,
Right.
which is super important because you will see certain people with posting different things and they're so caught up in the hate and they want everybody else to jump on that bandwagon,
that's right.
which is a popular bandwagon,
It is,
right?
It is.
unfortunately.
But
It
I'm
is.
not in this
It's
to
the-
be
it's what the
popular.
media does.
I'm in this to really, really help
Right.
people. And
Right.
so I coach men and women with and without children.
Okay.
So I think not a long time ago, but a while back, people thought, oh, she's a woman and she was a single mom, so she's only going to help women. And it's like, no, I'm a mother and I know how important it is to have healthy moms and healthy dads, right?
Right.
But I've also coached people without children. When it's the co-parenting coaching, sometimes I'll coach one person, sometimes I coach both.
Okay.
I've had clients as far out as Puerto Rico, and then I had one parent here. And so we did Zoom. So I do in person and I do virtual. What else?
Okay.
I really help individuals to get organized for divorce. Number one, they've got to get unstuck off that story.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if they're so stuck in that story of divorce, they're not going to be prepared for the business of divorce like they need to be. And so the goal is getting them unstuck so that when they're meeting with you all, when they're sending their emails or they're calling you or showing up for court, they're not stuck in the this isn't fair, blah, 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 right?
Right.
We've got to get organized. We want to be credible when we get on that stand, okay? And then figuring out goals. I have a whole binder full of hands-on activities I've created for individuals. And we're going to focus on divorce goals. We're going to focus on individual goals. We're going to focus on, if you're a parent, your co-parenting goals and your co-parenting goals. And those are things that we revisit every single time.
Right.
We work on what does your best self look like? Yeah. Because a lot of these individuals, I mean, it's just the truth. They're broken. And they have every right to be broken. But you cannot stay that way. That is a choice, and we're not going to choose that. And so if you don't know what your best self looks like, what do other people look like that you admire? What are some of those qualities? And how can you incorporate those into your life? And we're going to work on that. I have different communication maps they work on so that when they get that email or that text message or that personal interaction with the spouse that they're going through the divorce with or the ex-spouse or ex-partner, you're not going to hopefully have that verbal diarrhea.
Right,
You're going to
right.
pause and you're going to work through these steps I've created because you do not want to make a mistake in your communication for
right.
a multitude of reasons,
That's right.
We work on, if they're a parent, coming up with meaningful activities that encourage communication and either increasing the bond they already have or building the bond that they didn't have.
Right.
Right? And helping them to create a life that they and their children, if they have children, will love to lead. And some of that involves reinventing yourself. Yeah.
Right.
So it's so many things to talk about, but
is,
it's
it is.
really working on becoming organized, becoming a credible client, being somebody you're proud of, and if you have children that they're proud of, And it boils down to ending one chapter with grace and beginning that next chapter with confidence.
Right. Okay, so what do you charge for those services?
Yes. Okay, great question. Because I do have to eat.
Of course.
No. So it's very expensive if they just book me for one session. That's $195 an hour. And the
Okay.
reason for that is you're going to feel better after you talk to me for an hour.
Is that whether it's one person or two?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You're going to feel better after that hour
Right.
until the next problem comes up.
Right.
Okay. So mindset takes a lot of work. So if they schedule me, if they book a package for a month and that's paid for up front, it drops the rate to $175 an hour, but they have
okay.
to meet with me virtually in person every single week. And they're
Right.
held accountable for that, right?
Okay.
If they book the 3-month package, which is what most people do, because again, it takes work and then I have people renew that. So 3-month package drops it to $150 an hour, again, meeting every single week. And we're going through the binder and you're held accountable. And the other thing I want to say, which I think is really important, actually, I know it, that I work on with parents and individuals, is there's a page in it, and it says ways to show love to yourself, and then the other one is ways to show love to your child. And you may be thinking, okay, like, why would you want to do that? Well, again, you have people coming to you, and they're coming to me, and they're very broken for a multitude of reasons. And so it is imperative that you're doing self-care and showing love to yourself. And if you have a child, to your child. And so each week they have to come up with 2 ways to show love to themselves and their child. And it can't all be monetary ways.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay? We're going to come up with quality things that you can pour into yourself with and to your child.
Okay. So now you keep mentioning co-parenting coach. Are you a co-parenting facilitator?
I am not.
Okay.
So I'm actually looking into become a parent coordinator. So I'm looking into
coordinator.
the additional things to do that.
So explain what that difference is.
So a co-parenting facilitator is one that's typically, I guess, the court orders you to go to co-parenting facilitation, and then you actually work with the court as well, and you are a co-parenting facilitator.
Yes.
You're not doing that. You're not appearing in court. You're not part of the case in any way, shape, or form.
No, sir.
Correct.
So parent coordinator, I think, can be ordered by the court as well, is what I've
Right,
understood
that's correct.
from a judge. But the difference is a parenting facilitator has to have a master's degree.
Right. Okay.
And
Got
I
it.
do not.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Good. All right. Okay. So what do you do when one of the parties just isn't going to buy into any of this?
Well, I mean, that's their choice, and I'm real positive.
Right, of course.
But my sunshine and lollipops attitude ends the moment you don't want to co-parent.
Yep. Good.
It just
Okay.
does.
Yep.
And I'm not going to be run over about that.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter who you are or who's told you to hire me. Your job is to co-parent, and so I will be pretty blunt with those facts
Right.
about you need to play an active role in your child's life
Yeah,
and whatever
okay.
is going on. So
No, that's important. And I think you mentioned earlier, so one of the things that I believe sets us apart as a firm is we take the team approach, even with our attorneys. So when you hire us, you're hiring the law firm. I've got a managing family law attorney, and we've got a bank of associate attorneys and paralegals, and you're truly hiring all of us. Now, when we all get in a room together, we're not billing you 3 and 4 times. We're billing you only for one person, one attorney that's kind of primarily the
nice.
lead,
Yeah.
or the paralegal, but you're not being charged, yet you're getting the team approach. You're getting the satisfaction and the knowledge of all of us, because we range in ages, we range in experiences, we range in one, does a lot of trials, the other one does a lot of mediations, and so you really are getting a package. And so when you mentioned you take the team approach and that it takes the Super Bowl, which you mentioned, that's, I believe, what sets us apart, because a lot of times we see clients that have been with a lawyer or been with a big downtown firm, and I'm not going to name any names, but they only work with the one lawyer. And sometimes they never even talk to the lawyer. They're talking to the paralegal most of the time. And then when that lawyer's busy or out of town, it's like, well, who can I talk to? Well, nobody. He's the attorney of record. Well, that's not our approach here. And I think that that's very healthy and important, especially to our clients, especially when there's kids involved, because there's things that pop up.
Oh, absolutely.
That you need to talk to your lawyer right away. Well, with us, you can call us and you're going to find somebody that knows exactly what your case is about. We meet weekly on all cases. And again, you're not billed for that. So I think that's important that you put that team together. And so when you mentioned that resonated with me that, okay, that's exactly what we do, especially here at the firm.
Well, and it is. And I think for a lot of clients, even though as an attorney, you may know that that it's not, it's always important, but it's not time sensitive, right?
Right.
But they're still able to call in and they're going to talk to the attorney. They're going to talk to someone. They're going to talk to a member of the team, because when someone is going through all of those emotions, because they're raw emotions.
Oh, yes.
They want to know, if I want to talk to someone now, I don't want to be told, oh, well, your attorney's out of town or your attorney's in trial and they'll get to you next week or in 2 weeks
Right.
when they're ready. And
Right.
I mean, you're
That's a
truly
problem.
going to talk to a receptionist and you're going to talk to a paralegal or your attorney or an attorney here.
Right.
Well,
That's
because
important.
circling off of that is that so many of the times, most of what they deal with, they feel like it's time sensitive.
Oh, absolutely.
Even
Yes.
if the
That's right.
professionals are like, this could have probably waited till Monday at 9 o'clock.
It doesn't
Right.
matter.
But when you're in the middle of such chaos or brokenness or just all the things, they need somebody and they
That's
feel
right.
like they need them right then. So that's
right.
wonderful.
That's
And
right.
it lets them get it off their chest.
Right.
And I mean, I'm sure once they get it off their chest, it just gives them a little sense of, okay, little relaxation.
Right. No,
You
for
know?
sure. For sure. And we tell a lot of our clients as well, listen, we'll tell you when you need to worry about something. Otherwise, don't worry about it. And we explain why, and we're sensitive to that. And so I think that that's extremely important, that for clients, we've gotten a lot of good feedback that they appreciate that we take that extra step. So, okay. So when you used to come in, because I think you and I have met a couple of years ago, I think it was.
Yes.
You mentioned that you would bring lemon cake. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going somewhere with that, but right?
And
Tell
thank
us
you.
what you
I'm
would
very
do.
hungry and my stomach is
Well,
growling.
good. Okay, well, good.
So-
Then, all right, so you'd bring lemon cake, right? That'd be
Yes.
part of your spiel,
It was. So I don't have a marketing or business degree. I went to college to become a teacher.
right?
And so, but I am really right-brained. And so I am my marketing department. And so I thought, okay, what can I do as a gift of gratitude when I'm meeting with people, especially at the beginning when nobody knew who I was. I was just
Right.
somebody that would, reach out on social media. And so I thought, okay, they say take lemons and make lemonade. Because
course.
I remember when I was going through my second divorce in my apartment, I thought, oh, I could just see myself just with lemons and making lemonade, and actually turned it into a photo shoot not too long ago. But circling back, I'm like, okay, lemonade's good, but lemon cake is way better. And so I would always say that when I would come and meet with you guys. I would come in with a nothing but cake, big lemon cake, and on the top of it, I would have a picture of lemons, and it would say, I've chosen to take something that can be so sour and used it to sweeten the lives of others. Now, I will say I got to where I was buying so many nothing bun cakes.
Right,
It's pretty
right.
rare I do that anymore.
That's right.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I
Of
can't
course.
keep doing
Right,
this.
right.
But they do make the best cakes
They do.
ever.
Oh
and
my
I
gosh.
do stick by. I really have chosen to take something that when most people think of the word divorce, they're like, oh, something so sour. But I've used something that is sour, that is so painful, to create something to help people start a new life in a better way.
Right. And that the phrase is what I wanted you to get to. So yes, you summed it up perfectly, and that's what I
Aw,
wanted to
thank
hear.
you.
It was the
Well,
phrase
'cause
that
it's
you
the
said that you
imagery
put.
that you see.
Correct. It
I
is.
mean,
It
and
is.
and you like to think when people, I mean, with everything that you're doing and as many people as you touch, when they think of divorce, it's not such a negative connotation because they understand it's going to suck,
Yeah, it's
Yep.
gonna.
but
It's
you
gonna
are
suck.
going
That's
to
right.
get through it, and
Right.
you're going to get through it, and you're going to be happy.
That's true. Okay. So our podcast is called Raising the Bar. So share with us, and of course, this whole podcast has been you sharing with us. How do you raise the bar, either and or both, professionally and socially, or professionally? Wait, did I say that right?
Professionally and personally.
Professionally and personally. Yes.
Okay, so professionally, I will just say that I really try to put a different spin on things that it isn't really popular, honestly. The way the world wants to operate, and I'm after to change that. So that's how I raise the bar, raise the roof, right?
Yes.
And then personally, I really am interested in hearing people's stories and getting to know who they are, where they've been, and in fact, to the point, like when we still lived in an apartment, I remember there was the custodian, and he always had the biggest smile on his face. He would be, blowing the leaves in the hallway or sweeping, and you never saw him without a smile. And I remember just talking to him, and one day Tegan was like, my youngest, Mom, would you stop talking to everybody? But I really do love to hear about people and their stories. So I guess that would be the personal or the social standpoint
Right.
of raising the bar, because I think, in society, it's all about me, right? Or what can get me ahead. And I'm very relationally driven. And so just really, helping people to feel cared about. So,
Right.
Well, and you are incredibly upbeat. You are just such a positive person that it's contagious.
It is contagious. You can't help but smile, right? You're
yes,
talking to her and you're just smiling.
Okay, I woke up and it wasn't the best day, but I'm like, oh my God, I feel so happy now.
Right. See, that's good. We just brought Amy in and now there you
I'm
go.
going to nothing but cakes and I'm getting a
lemon cake.
So thank you for that. Thank you
That
for the
is
positivity
great.
because it truly is contagious.
oh,
When you
It
have
is.
someone that you're around that is just always so upbeat, always so positive, always with a smile in their voice and on their face, you can't help but just feed off of that. So
Right.
thank you.
thank you
Right.
so much.
Thank you so much for that.
That's great. So this has been so fun.
Yes.
Anything else you want to ask?
No, I think that's everything. I
Okay.
will say, check out social media.
Yes.
Check out the books, please. And thank you so much for being on this
Yes.
episode.
Thank
you
you,
so
Amy.
much for
Really
having
appreciate
me.
it.
This
of
was
course.
fantastic.
We'll do it again. We'll have a follow-up when you write your third book.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's do it.
All right.
All right, thank you guys
Thank
for
y'all
tuning
for tuning in. All right.
Thanks to our sponsor, the Ashmore Law Firm.
We specialize in probate, estate planning, family law, guardianship, personal injury, and civil litigation.
You can find us at ashmorelaw.com.
Or by calling us at 214-559-7202.
Again, that's ashmorelaw.com.
Or calling 214-559-7202.